Hey, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day wherever you are in the world. Now, in my opinion, Taipei, especially Taipei, I can't talk for the whole of Taiwan, but Taipei is one of the worst places to land in to a location and have the shittest choice of accommodation to choose from. That's not just my opinion. That is from experience from when I did it and now currently if I'm looking for accommodation for clients as well. And before all of the sensitive little souls say, oh, fuck you, foreigner, what do you know? Go back to your own country. You don't understand Taiwanese culture. Relax. Relax because this channel mostly and these videos are not for you because people who say that to foreigners are not my target audience. So don't call me racist either because I've just said that because my son is Taiwanese. So I'm just covering my back in all angles because some people are sensitive. So this video is for people who are looking to come into Taiwan, well, mainly Taipei. I keep saying Taipei, mainly for actually settling in here, living here. It might be for short-term or long-term study. It might be to get your feet on the ground in the country whilst you look for a job to then permanently live here, or it may be just for a short to medium term vacation or stay. Okay, so hopefully this will just give you a little bit of clarity. Yes, other people have different opinions and experiences, but this is what I'm kind of saying how I feel from before, and then 13 years later, what I still think right now. And mostly the comparability. Mostly, I'm going to compare it to other cities across Asia. And yes, look, there are great prices, great offers you can get, and it all depends on your circumstance, on your budget as well. Sometimes from your home country where you're traveling from, or the country of origin where you're traveling from as well. Everyone does have different perception of what is a good deal and what is not. But for me personally, and having been around Southeast Asia, South Asia, East Asia as well. I don't rate Taipei highly for somewhere where you can just land into Taoyuan Airport or Taipei Airport and then think, right, yeah, I can get a short-term rental with no hassles at a good price, or I can get a nice Airbnb at a reasonable price. Or I can go into, I forgot the word because I forget some English words sometimes. Uh, or I can go to a hostel, that's a word, because I'm surrounded by Chinese talking most of my days, or a hostel or a reasonable price hotel. Okay. So again, look, I'm just going to throw out Vietnam or Malaysia, Indonesia or Philippines for an example, right? I know now if I go to the Philippines, I can, if I just needed to go there for 1 to 3 months or 6 months, okay, I could go there and so I'm going to be talking I'm going to be talking English British pounds. So let me just make sure I can translate it to USD, okay? And sorry for all the Euro followers there. I don't always say it in euros, but I'm pretty sure I could find somewhere like that for around. Uh, lowest, I'm going to say around £9 a night, so $11 to $12 a night. Yes, it depends what standards you need, what facilities you need, but there are, and because I know, because I've looked and I've done it, you can go to some places in Vietnam and have a pool, a swimming pool. Same with Malaysia and Philippines for $9 for £9 for 10, 11, $12 a night. Okay, and to me that is reasonable for people's needs. However, Taipei is a different story. So I'm going to go through my story of when I arrived. And yes, this video is just going to be my face and my head under this cap talking to you. So if you don't want that, you probably won't watch. But if you just pretend you're not looking and watching me sat there just talking to you with my stupid mustache and little beard, then you might get some good information. So my experiences from the first time when I came here, I needed to get here and find a place to live because I know I wanted to live here and work here. I already knew because another long backstory. I won't go into it right now. Maybe another for a different time. So I knew this was a place. Now I had a problem, and this is a problem most of you may find, or some of my clients find when they come over to me or get in touch with me because they want to find an apartment or accommodation here in Taipei or across Taiwan. And by the way, if you need such service, go onto my website, nowtaiwan.life. That's nowtaiwan.life. It'll be on this video somewhere and in the comments and description as well. Nowtaiwan.life, different services, including taxi pickup from the airport and placement to housing, accommodation, and help with translation for contracts as well. So the issue is, yeah, I needed to find something, but in Taipei, you need to have an ARC, alien residence certificate or residency, or a job, so a work permit, to be able to then rent out an apartment and sign a contract. However, you can't get a work permit without being offered a job or transferring your ARC, so you're kind of like visa into a work permit. But then sometimes it's really confusing. I went through it all on the playlist and video, but sometimes you need uh, a work permit before you can then get given residency, depending on what route you go through. So it's a catch-22. So how are you meant to sign a contract when a lot of landlords, landladies, and agents are very shaky about renting to some foreigners for very good reason, because not every foreigner is awesome at this kind of thing, and it is a big risk because yes, you may pay a deposit, but still, things may be damaged, payment may be late, then they've got to try and find another renter, and it just causes a whole lot of problems. So they like to see that a foreigner has the right to live in Taiwan and also work in Taiwan, so they have a source of money. Or sometimes if you've got your own business, or you can provide proof that you have got enough money to pay, then okay, that sometimes is okay. Or let's say if you just want to go in and pay for 1 year up front, no complaints there. But I've had experience getting apartments for people where they just want a 6-month term or a 4-month term, but instead of letting them pay up front, they still want 2 months deposit and then pay monthly. Yes, I know it doesn't make sense, but you will find in Taiwan that some of these things, that's probably one frustration. It's sometimes things just don't make sense like that. UK probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people. A lot of things don't make sense to me now when I go back, but Taiwan is like that. Instead of, look, you've got your money there for the whole period of the contract, you can be given it. No, they still want the deposit and for you to pay monthly. So let me go through what happened with me. So I arrived and I had no idea where I was going to stay until probably 2 days. I came from Singapore. I visited a friend in Singapore. 2 days before then, I kind of figured out where I was going to stay, and it was a hostel. I wasn't really keen on that because I was like kind of age-wise an adult, but mentality, yes, still a child. I still am now. And I got a hostel, and I would say at the time it was costing around 12,000, maybe 14,000 NT a month, which is quite expensive even at the time there. So let me just, what we've done here, convert. Okay. So around 14,000 NT. I'm just going to say 14,000 NT a month, which is about 427 USD. Now, the annoying thing here was at that time, because apartments were a lot cheaper, I could have found a cheaper apartment, but I didn't have a stable job right at that time because I was still kind of waiting for my ideal job, which was in sports or PE teaching or coaching. And I just went to a few cram schools who, they don't, at that time especially, I can't say now, maybe it's a bit different now, but at that time, they're not really offering you residency just for a few part-time hours and everything. So I couldn't rent out an apartment with a contract because I still didn't have really any evidence that I had a job, and I only had my 3-month visa-free entry from my British passport. So I ended up staying in a hostel, and luckily it was just me and a previous friend. I haven't been in touch with him for years now, a guy from South Korea, and it was only me and him in this huge hostel room. So it was almost like we had our private room and we got on really well. So you didn't mind because you had the run of the whole hostel, all the facility, and it was just me and him. Occasionally, a few people would come and stay in the bunk beds, and we were like, fuck's sake, how dare they come into our hostel and mess up our dynamics, right? Although we had no right to do that because it wasn't our hostel. We just paid for a bed there in the room. Now, uh, with that, I probably stayed there for a couple of months, and then finally I found an ideal job, full-time job. But I still had to like receive my first salary and have my ARC, so my visa on what I entered in, transferred over to a work permit to then get my residency. So it was then an additional month before I could then rent out my own apartment because I could say, look, I've got a job. Here's my job contract. There's my salary. I've now got my residency, my ARC through my job. There we go. And I was okay to rent. And my first rent was around the same kind of price, around 13,000 NT. So just over 400 USD, around £320 a month. And it had 2 rooms. Yes, it was Xindian, which is New Taipei City, but at the time that was amazing. And I was so happy. It was like a big change in my life because I'd just gone there. It was a bit of a risk, bit of a gamble. Ended up staying in a hostel in shitty little part-time jobs teaching English, which I didn't like at the time, but there's not much choice for some people when you first come here. And just getting a full-time job and then being able to sign my first contract was it was a life changer because if I didn't have them 2 things at that time, maybe things wouldn't have worked out how they have now. I'm so fortunate. So this is why I'm making these videos to try and help people who may be in the same or similar situation, for people who are thinking about coming to the country under similar circumstances. So that was a big game changer. But things are slightly different now. People are more on edge about renting out to foreigners. There's more, I would say, there's more tape around restrictions because a lot of there's been big clamps down. A lot of jobs now want a foreign to have the proper paperwork. Back then, it's a bit more relaxed, which means it's harder to actually get a contract. But there are some, I won't say loopholes, but there are some ways around it. Because remember, back then, there wasn't any Airbnb. There was hostels, hotels, or wait until, or apartment share, which is another option, which I'll go on to, or wait until you're able to sign your own contract. But that's the thing. Although I ended up staying in a hostel for 3 months, I wanted my own place, which a lot of people do. Now, to the present day, unfortunately, a lot of people haven't got many options depending on budget because Taipei, especially getting somewhere. And if you look through my playlist on apartment renting, hotels and hostels or whatnot in Taiwan, you will see that the prices aren't really great value depending on your budget again. And again, with experiences across Asia, it's pretty disgusting value for what you get. Seriously, don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Oh, we'll go back to your own country, man. No, this is my country. Take it easy, sensitive souls. It's all right. Wipe your eyes, mate. So what I will say is people who come here, and I'm talking from experiences of working with clients as well, okay? People who come here have these options. And look, it's all in different videos and playlists where I go into more detail. This is a quick overviewing in case you miss watching them, but you can go back and they'll be more relatable to you. So you have different options. You can first get here, put yourself into a hostel where you're going to be paying nowadays, and check on the hotel videos I do, are not great. You could be paying anything from £15 to £20 a night for a bunk bed in a shared area. Okay, so if you're staying for a month, let's just say, so already you're going to be paying around £450 a month for a little bed, sharing it in a mixed dorm with 10 or 12 people or whatever, with fart and shit and noise and all that stuff going on. So yeah, it's not going to be happy days. I'm just converting it there. So about £450 a month, around 560 potentially for something clean and all right. More than that, looking towards £500, $620 or something like that. which is annoying because, like I said, with my experience, you can get your own place for the same price or just a little bit more. That's the annoying thing. Nowadays, if you look at Airbnb, it's the same thing. I have many people saying, I just can't find anything of good value for, a month or 2 months at a time in Airbnb in Taipei City where I want. And it's true. A lot of Airbnbs are going for around 800 NT to 1000 NT a night, which you want to stay 30 nights, that's 30,000 NT, which you can literally get a new apartment building with swimming pool and everything. Not in Taipei, but somewhere else like my place. Okay, so 30,000 NT, you can get a very nice place, even in Taipei. So why would you want to pay a monthly Airbnb for that price? 30,000 NT. Yes, you might get it a bit cheaper because you're doing 30 days in a row, but the standard of the place possibly isn't going to be that great. Okay. Then you can look at the hotel option. Hotels are the worst value in Taipei. It absolutely sucks. It's horrendous. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you have a different opinion. I know because I stay in hotels a lot, and I mean a lot, and I know. And I stay in nice hotels across the world, and I stay in shitty hotels or shittier hotels, so I can test out the different value levels and also make videos about them. You can check them out. I say shittier hotels. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. And I'm not looking down on them at all, but I mean just like you'll go in and like there's dirt and everything everywhere. So that's shitty, right? If a hotel room is dirty with hair and shit everywhere, it's shitty. I'm not saying that in the country or the people who can afford that hotel are shitty. It's literally shitty, disgusting hotel rooms, what should be better for what you're paying. The price to the service and the quality is just not even in Taiwan. In Taipei, Taiwan's on a whole is not as bad, but Taipei is terrible. So you're looking and you're probably getting a hotel, again, the same as Airbnb, 800 NT a night to 1000 NT a night in not great locations out the way of centrally in Taipei. And if you're doing that long term while you're waiting for a contract, you could be doing that for a month minimum while you're waiting to find a job and then to find an apartment. So you could be paying out, 25,000 NT just in a hotel. And I'm being polite with that. It's likely for a nice hotel going to be almost double. But you can, if you need to, you can stay in places and pay, if you can do 20,000 NT, around £500, around 640 US dollar for a month. And look on my playlist, I have found some cost-effective hotels around that price, which I wouldn't mind living there for 1 month, okay? But it just means you haven't got your cooking facility like you do in apartments for the same price. That's a stab to the heart when you're paying out money when you could be doing it in your own apartment or at least studio space, your own space. So there is that option. You can, another option, another way around here, book yourself into a hotel for 3 or 4 days, and then within them 3 or 4 days, try and get a short-term rental for anything between 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 months. You can do that. There are specialist short-term apartments which do that. You do pay a bit more for a smaller space because it's like a premium for it being short-term. You do have to kind of show them that you have got the funds to pay, or at least put down a deposit and then pay the first month in hand. And you can do that just to give you some time, just to give you some security while you're job hunting or whilst you're looking to rent another apartment, okay? But like I said at the very start of this video, you are going to go through the hassles, the hardships of renting an apartment without showing them you've got a full-time job. I've had some troubles with clients who have come on the 1 year or 6 month and turn it into a 1 year working visa. So look on the different visas in my video, the visa video, especially the working holiday visa. You can come here depending on age and what country you're from and work here for 1 year. But even then, some renters are like, it's not really a proper residency and everything. And you really got to push them a little bit. Yes, they use it as a bargaining chip, but you have got to push it a little bit and still they're a little bit yes or no-y. So it can be a minefield. Look, some people have no issues whatsoever. Some clients I work with have no issues. Some of them do have issues. It all depends on who you're kind of working with as well in terms of agency or land person, landlord or landlady as well, renter. So there is that way. Or you can come here and already have your own business. In that case, if you've got your own company or you're a remote worker and you haven't got the digital nomad visa or you're coming on a gold card, so basically you're just living in Taiwan and you're going to go out and then come back in again. As long as you can show that you're able, some kind of business name, business company, and annual income for the previous year, or show them bank account and be able to actually pay for deposit, one rent up front, and maybe some additional months rent up front, you can do it. Or you can just keep renting for 6 month rentals. Okay, it's normally not an issue. But if you want a long-term one, it's undecided because if you are leaving the country, they don't know if you're going to leave and come back. And again, yes, I already mentioned, who cares? That's why you pay deposit. But they don't want the hassle to then keep your deposit, which is great for them, but then having to find someone else. Because if they just keep a 2 month deposit, but remember, you may just run away and not pay the month rent. So they're using another month to pay the rent. They may not find a suitable person within 2 months. So they start losing money, which is why it is a risk for them. So if you are just coming in and flitting in and out the country, you may be better off just coming in on a hotel and then securing, I would say probably contacting me, for example, and securing, this video isn't a plug, by the way, for my services. This is an additional if you do need my services, and just finding like a 4 monthly or 6 month apartment, which is a lot easier than getting a 1 year contract. But if you are coming here and you are going to be offered a job, or you're coming in here as a teacher, even then it does take maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months for all the paperwork to get your visa or your ARC or visit visa or your passport free visa, landing visa transferred onto a residency. Okay, so with that, you do have to kind of show them the contract. You can, scrub out what you're earning or whatnot, but they do want to see, or a letter from your employer. So if it's a international, proper international schools, you don't really have that issue. But if it's a private school or whatnot, as long as you can show them evidence that you are contracted to a school and you're going through the paperwork to get your residency, not your permanent residency, your APRC, but your residency whilst you're working with them with your work permit. So basically your work permit, because you can't get permanent residency until you've been here working for 5 years or married for 5 years or more. So then they will accept it. Look, you can come and there are different ways you can test for water. Like I said, some people will accept one thing, other people won't accept another thing or the same thing. So you do have to try, but the main thing is you do get that security, so you're not panicking when you first arrive in the country. That's another thing about my story. Like, I thought I could quickly just find a better hostel. I tried a different hostel. It was terrible, so I went back to the original one because it was absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's another story. People putting hairdryers on at like 3 a.m. and you're thinking, what are you actually thinking? I know this is the glorious side of living in hostels. But like, what are people thinking? How fucking stupid and selfish. By the way, I had hair. It's not a jealousy thing, right? I had hair then. I could also use a hairdryer. And don't worry, like I was going bald at the time. Taiwan hasn't made me fully bald, so it's not Taiwan's fault. But what are people thinking? So if you come in as a student as well, so a student's a bit different because you will have to show means of being able to afford accommodation and acceptance or proof that you have been accepted onto a program. But that should all be done with your visa anyway, because to get your visa, you have to be accepted onto a course. So it's kind of a twofold thing. And then you can show your visa, your student visa, or your acceptance onto a course to the renter and say, look, I'm doing a course for 6 months or 1 year. Here's my means of paying. Here's my funding, here's a deposit, here's 1 month upfront. Okay, and then it should be okay. So just to finish now, a few things you need, because people always say, what kind of budget Do I need it? All depends on it all depends on you. What are you happy with in levels of hotels, in levels of accommodation? Do you need a new building? Do you need an elevator building? Do you know something we're cooking? It's going to put the prices up, which is why you can watch some other videos about renting and look through there and get a rough idea. But for sure, you're going to need probably money, and I'm going to go over the budget a little bit. 3 or 4 days for a hotel or Airbnb, okay, uh, and or 2 or 3 months for an Airbnb, maybe, or if you're not short term, 3 or 4 days for hotel, and then ready to go into a full rental contract, whether it be 6 months or 1 year, you'll need 2 months deposit and 1 month rental already. So you'll need 3 of the monthly payments. So let's say you're renting somewhere for 25,000 NT. You'll need 25,000 NT, 25,000 NT for deposit. So that's 50,000 NT. And you'll need the first month's rent, which is 25,000 NT. You'll need 75,000 NT to get started. But if you go through an agent, sometimes the agent takes half of the monthly the monthly rent for their fee. So if your rent is 25,000, it's additional 12,500 NT to the agent, which yes, they've got the contact with the renter or the landlord or whatever, and it's a pain in the ass because they don't really do much. If you get a good one, they're great. If you get a bad one, it's a waste of absolute money. And then if you go through me, I offer a bit of service. I charge for the services, not as much as I should charge or what other people do charge, believe me, because we do translation and everything as well. But take a look at the website. Again, the link, I'll put the link up here as well. It will already be up here somewhere. Also in the comments and description as well. So you could be looking to pay out for the 3 months, half-month fee for the agent, but we do all the negotiation and discussing with them as well, so we can actually negotiate the price down for you, which basically if we negotiate the price down, it pays for the fee that you would pay myself and my staff and my colleagues. So yeah, you're basically getting our service for free because we will do our best to negotiate the rental prices down and even sometimes some other things. So hopefully that was really useful. Some people overview on this subject, and I would suggest to look at all the apartment renting and housing and visa videos if you're not already done so on my channel, which you can find here.